Welcome to Life with Beth and Court,
where we teach you how to live authentically and build your best life.
one step at a time. What are we mic checking with today?
Well, since the topic is being grateful, and I know one Christian song about being grateful that I can't remember the lyrics to, I'm going to take a hard right and go for Dido. Remember Dido? How old were we when that came out?
Like 12?
Yeah, I feel like we had to be in middle school. Were
13?
we 12 in middle school?
Maybe it was high school. I don't know.
No, it was middle school.
Wasn't she like the flowy ocean? Yeah. Oh, no, that was Enya.
Aren't Enya and Dido like cousins technically in the music world? It was like all around the same time.
No, it's just that both of their names have 4 letters. That doesn't
and their
actually
music,
mean anything.
Enya was the one that was like, who can say anyhow?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Something Istanbul. something so.
I'm not good with lyrics, but I'm nearly positive she didn't say something Istanbul.
You don't know. It was cultural.
Oh my gosh.
So glad we settled that Enya and Dido are lost long cousins.
Lost long?
Lost long.
Long lost? Are you drunk right now?
No, but I'm tired. Lost long? Is that what I actually said?
Yeah. It's supposed to be long lost.
Yeah, that. Ooh.
Anyway.
What's her song now? I forgot. Oh.
I don't know. It's your song.
No, you know the song. Sing it with me.
Hard pass.
Okay. And I want to thank you for giving me the best day of my life.
Yeah.
Don't know the rest of the words, but I bet she still says thank you a lot.
That was amazing improv.
I'm really good at improv.
You should be on Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah. I would be really good at that show. I remember watching it and I was like, I'm funny. I can do this.
I could do everything but the singing parts.
Oh, no, I'd be good at that part. And then you could do the other part. And
I would black out at that part.
I tried to take it low because I can't go high with that, but I still kind of went high, so it came out like a medium high. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Nope.
First part of the song.
Okay.
Usually she's like real high. And I... like that.
All right.
That probably just hurt people's ears.
Okay. So let's kick this bad boy off. Welcome back to another episode of Life with Beth and Court. I'm Beth.
I'm Court.
And today we're talking about getting grateful. So we know that there's studies out there showing that being grateful can do things that improve your physical health as well as your emotional and mental well-being. So some of those things include what?
Yeah, so we actually have a list right here of things that we put into a PDF that we created for a Grateful Challenge that we just started about a week ago, which is going awesome, by the way.
Super awesome.
Yes, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But just a few of the benefits listed here. So it talks about when you're practicing gratitude on a regular basis that there is improved emotional health, which totally makes sense because when you're being grateful, this is one of our favorite things to say. You can't be hateful and grateful at the same time.
Truth.
We literally have a mug that says that on our website. Put it on a mug. Yep. And so when you think about how you're being grateful, it's that much harder to be frustrated and have those toxic emotions and those toxic thoughts. So one of the studies actually shows that gratitude reduces depression and anxiety and increases happiness.
That is powerful.
Very powerful. Who doesn't want to feel better emotionally? And then this is probably my favorite one, is it helps you with your sleep. And just writing down a few gratefuls before bed can help you. And we'll talk about how we do our gratefuls in a little bit. But I know that when I get my gratefuls done just before bed, I'm going to bed with a clear mindset and an attitude of gratitude instead of worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow or what I need to do. So it kind of shuts down that part of my brain and allows me to align before I go to sleep, which is super helpful.
And hopefully you have cooler dreams.
I mean, I don't know if there's been a study on that yet. We could look into it, but
I mean, I don't have the data either because I forget most of the times what I dreamt about. But I mean, if you're going to sleep thinking about things that you're happy about and grateful for, likely you're going to have better dreams than if you go to sleep planning on what to do if someone breaks into your house.
That is very true. Very true. Also, it gives you more confidence. So it improves your self-esteem because the studies have shown that you're reducing social comparisons with other people and you're supporting and encouraging other people instead of feeling resentful. And I feel like that's really huge, especially in our last episode where we talked about that it's really easy to be judgmental or compare yourself to others and live in that space. So I feel like that's a huge benefit.
Did you know that Instagram actually took away likes on the US platform to reduce comparison?
I don't think it's happened on the US yet, has it?
Yeah. They said it was coming. I mean, I'm not on Instagram, you are. So you could check that out next time you're on there, but they said that it's been like that in New Zealand for a long time and they actually like it cuz you can still see who likes it on the back end for the person who posted it, but on the front end they took away the likes so that there was less comparison of whose picture got more likes.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Very interesting from a social giant.
For sure. So also gratitude enhances empathy and reduces aggression. So in a study that was done by the University of Kentucky, those who ranked higher on gratitude skills were less likely to retaliate against others even when given negative feedback. So I feel like that's really huge. I know constructive feedback, even at its most constructive, finest points, I struggled with for a really long time. But think about it. If you're in a negative headspace and you're not practicing gratitude, it's probably super easy to become defensive.
Well, especially when you think everyone's out to get you and you think that you're not assuming positive intent for anyone. And so you're like, oh, of course you would say that because you hate me and want me to fail.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last data point we pulled is it helps you strengthen and deepen your relationships. So gratitude leads to deeper relationships and connections. And a 2014 study found that thanking a new acquaintance makes them more likely to seek an ongoing relationship with that person.
Yeah, I'd probably want to be friends with someone who is grateful towards me.
Well, and we've talked about this before. Energy is contagious. So if you're putting out good energy and have an attitude of gratitude in the world, people are going to feel that. If you're closed off and defensive, that they're also going to feel that as well.
It takes consistency to form good habits. And obviously, a lot of us would love to make gratitude a daily practice. So it takes finding what works for you, though, because what works for one person to do on a daily basis might not work for you. And so we've tried a number of different ways to get our gratitudes in and actually formulate a mindset of gratitude rather than just like, oh, I'll be grateful in these 5 minutes of my day.
Right.
It's a goal of ours to actually be grateful as a mindset so that when tough challenges come along, or like you had mentioned earlier, constructive feedback, anything like that, anything that would challenge our mental or emotional space in a day, that we would be able to approach it with kindness and love and gratitude.
And I think it's really important to know that having that culture of gratitude based on what works for you is okay. Because I remember when I first started doing gratefuls, I had learned at a program that you do your 5 gratefuls every morning. And I'm like, cool, I've got this. So I had a little journal and I would do my 5 gratefuls every morning. But then pretty soon, if one of my mornings was out of whack, I forgot my gratefuls. And then it kind of slid from there. And I would be super hard on myself. I would be like, oh, you didn't do your gratefuls. You suck. You need to keep up on this. And then the same for one of the other techniques we're going to talk about. I tried that and I would be so hard on myself when I wouldn't do that one method consistently. So that's why I really appreciate that we've blended a lot of different ways. That way it is this culture instead of being really hard on yourself if you miss writing down your 5 in your journal, because I think this helps me to be successful having that culture instead of pointing it to a task that I either pass or fail every day.
Well, yeah, and it's our life, so we'll do it our way.
Right.
And that's the bottom line with anything is when you hear things from experts or when you're learning something from someone new or even you look up to someone, even what you hear from us, we're just telling you what works for us. And it's the same for everyone else. They may have found ways that have worked for them, and that's great. And so they're giving you their technique, but it doesn't mean it's the technique. And it doesn't mean that there's only one way to achieve those results. It's how they achieve those results. And so it's completely fine. To your point, it's totally fine to blend different methods, to take what's helpful and leave the rest. So what are some ways that we have incorporated gratefulness and gratitude into our routines?
Sure. So we have tried writing them down. We've tried writing them down in a specific journal that was specifically for gratefuls. And then I've also done a method where in the morning when I do have time, I just open a blank journal and I cross it into quadrants and I break it up into different things I want to reflect on before I start my day. And one of those is gratefuls as well. We've also done a win wall, which I think we've talked about that a little bit on social media, but we haven't really dove deep into it. But basically, you have a wall of wins, and those can be at your discretion. So something that's big, something that's small, but I try to keep one in my God and Glitter room, and then I try to keep one at work. That way, I'm making sure I'm celebrating little wins throughout the day, because to me, that's a form of gratitude.
For those of you listening that may be new with us, yes, she did just say the God and Glitter room, and it's her office in our house, and it is quite literally full of God and glitter.
Yeah.
She hand
Straight to the
stenciled
point.
a bunch of gold glittery. It's the only thing she's ever measured in her life.
The glitter to paint
ratio that she actually used our kitchen utensils to measure.
I did.
To be clear. And so, yeah, the room is called the God and Glitter room. It's her office, her study, her place of peace. I just wanted to say that in case people were like, did that woman just say God and Glitter room? Yeah, it's a room. It's real.
It's true. It's my happy place. So a couple of other things we do. One thing I taught myself to do pretty early on when I was trying to be grateful, when I was still in a negative mindset quite a bit, I would, if something would happen that felt icky or uncomfortable or made me upset, I would allow myself to feel it and process it. Like we said in our last episode with emotions, that you can't dismiss or minimize what you're feeling. So say, for example, I got a flat tire and I was like, oh my gosh, this sucks. I'm running late. I don't have time to deal with this. So I allow myself to fully feel that and process it. And then on the other side of it, I'm like, I'm really grateful that this is what happened, because my tire could have blown out in traffic and I could have been hit by another car. So we talk about not comparing your situation to others, which is true, but this is also a variation of that you acknowledge and accept what happened. And then once you've processed it, you're able to go on and say, I'm really grateful that this is what happened instead of what it could have been. And I call it flipping the script. That's what I named it. And it's like, how can you flip this to see the bigger picture?
You just have to be careful not to use gratitude as a way of suppressing emotions, because, like you just mentioned, they don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Right.
You can feel angry or sad or scared or whatever you're feeling, acknowledge that, but then still be grateful on the other side.
Absolutely. What we've been doing lately is that we just say our gratefuls out loud to each other before we go to bed. So we will go back and forth. We each do 5, but one does the other one. I think it's fun to use that prompt to engage with someone else to encourage their gratitude as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And then one, as we were talking about recording, we talked about was thanking other people. And so this isn't one that I do as much as I would like to. It's a goal for myself to always express gratitude when I can. And so 2 examples I can think of recently. I had coffee with a friend on Saturday and we hadn't seen each other in a long time, and it was just really good to catch up. And so I used to just follow up with, that was fun. Like, let's do it again sometime, or something really short like that. And I made sure I was really intentional. And I said, thank you for taking the time out of your day for us to spend that time together and have really good conversation. And I appreciate your love of God and what you have to offer. And so being really specific with what you're grateful for about that interaction and that person.
Well, sometimes too, when you're thanking people for things, they're things that they don't even necessarily know that others notice about them.
Yeah.
And so when you thank people for, like, thanks for just being here to listen, that other person might be like, oh, I didn't know that this was a big deal to you. And then they may be then more intentional listening to other people going forward, because they realize, oh, this is something that someone's actually grateful that I do well.
Right. And that's that intentional energy we talk about again, like you're sharing with them and then they're capturing that and sharing it with others.
I think there's also something special too about how it intensifies the bond when you can be very specific about what you're grateful about with someone else, whether that's a friend or a significant other or a family member. It kind of helps you see them more human when you can say, I love this specifically about you, rather than sometimes we tend to focus on what irritates us, especially if there's, a list of things that have been getting on your nerves, it helps to come back and say, but here's what I'm grateful about this person, because overall, they're not a bad person. They have their human traits just like I do that might get on my nerves, but here's what I love about them.
It reminds me of the book by Gary Chapman and another co-author that I can't think of right now, but it's called Motivation by Appreciation. And so it talks about, it's specifically geared for leadership in the workplace, but it talks about how everyone has a different motivation point. So anyone who's familiar with Gary Chapman's book, The 5 Love Languages, it's very similar to that, but it applies in the workplace. So basically, instead of just saying, I appreciate you, you're saying, Beth Ann, I really appreciate that you are so organized and so detail oriented, and it adds a lot of value to our company because you help us stay on task and stay organized.
Man, I might come work.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that feels so much more connected and rich and valuable than I appreciate you. Because when you're using generalities, is that a word?
Yeah.
Because when you're using generalities to express gratitude or appreciation, it feels a little watered down. It feels good at first, I think, like, hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. But then you hear them saying it to 5 other people and you're like, oh, so you're
doing it because your leadership book told you to do it.
Right. And that's not to say that, I mean, that takes a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a good first step. Absolutely.
Yeah. When I started as a leader, that's all I could get out was I appreciate you. But then as I learned what made other people feel appreciated individually, it became personal. And you're telling them, this is what I love and appreciate about you. And that goes with the gratefuls that we were just talking about.
Yeah. And I think that's another good point, is that just like we all feel loved in different ways, we also feel appreciated in the workplace in different ways as well. So that's a different conversation. But when you find out that, like, oh, to this person, public recognition is how they feel most appreciated. But to this person, getting a small token of appreciation, like a new desk plaque or something like that, that makes them feel more appreciated. Or some people like a handwritten note, and that's how they feel appreciated. When you start to know people as individuals, just like you would for a partner or a family member or a child, when you're trying to figure out what makes you feel most loved, some people love giving gifts. Some people, the gifts don't mean anything and they would rather spend quality time. And it's the same for different ways of being appreciated. And so I think that's also really important, that you don't just appreciate in the way that you know how to do it, but the next level of appreciation is not just saying that I appreciate you, but then going beyond that and figuring out what makes you feel appreciated.
Yeah, and with that book, there's actually a quiz that you can have people take. So that one's for leadership, but I think also I feel like you can find the love language one online as well. So just really being intentional and asking what that looks like for them. So we know that it takes consistency and repetition to form habits. And we know that the more you're doing a habit consistently, you are rewiring your brain and you're building neuroplasticity. So a lot of us probably have habits that we'd like to undo from our neuroplasticity, and that's okay. But we were really thinking, how can we take our concept of gratitude that we know and open it up to other people? There was actually a study done by the American Society of Training and Development, and they did a study on accountability and found that you have a 65% chance of completing a goal if you commit to someone. And if you have a specific accountability appointment with a person you've committed with, you will increase your chance of success by up to 95%.
Oh, I would believe that 100%.
So that's super powerful. And we started thinking, how can we share this attitude of gratitude and encourage people to get grateful, but also help them to be successful? Mm-hmm. So we set up this challenge and we let it be completely organic, and we let people either add themselves into the group or we invited a few from our Facebook pages. And the challenge was, because we know accountability is important, that they invited 5 people. And I think so we're 5 days in, or is this day 4? Day 5.
Day 5, yeah.
So we're 5 days in, and day 1 of the group, we were super excited because we had like 45 people. Yeah. And we're like, that's an awesome
We were
turnout.
thinking like maybe 10 to 15 would show up.
Which is okay, because impact is impact.
Yeah,
so
totally.
We were super stoked that there were 45 people. And then I think by day 2, we had like 77, and then day 3, 80 something. So we are up to 98 people. 90,
it just got crazy real quick.
95 or 98 people in this group. And what was so awesome was I have to improve all of the invites individually. So we encourage people to invite 5 of their friends to get accountable with them. And some people invited like 10, 15, 20, like
Yeah.
people got into this. So it's been really cool to just see the community build because we know that builds success. And then the other thing we did is we had a daily prompt. So
Yeah.
we know when you're starting something new, it's really hard. And we thought, how can we make this a little bit easier and a little bit guided so they can be successful? So we have 14 prompts that we are releasing throughout the 14 days. And it's really cool because they're each unique and different in their own way. And it's been amazing to see, 1, how many comments we've gotten.
Tons of
2,
comments.
how people are showing up. But my favorite part, because I'm the emotional softie, is people who don't even know each other are engaging with each other.
Yeah, it's super cool.
So these people don't even know each other. They're taking the time to not only post themselves, but then go through and comment on other people's stuff. And I'm like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, this is how life should be. And so we have made sure that we go through every day and we read everyone's comments and we try to give feedback. And then also we've been participating as well.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite parts is, well, first of all, when you're talking about the growth of it and how quickly it took off, I think what happened was people weren't sure about it themselves, so they jumped in. And then once they realized that it was fun and it was cool, then they were like, oh, well, days 3 and 4, like, my people, you come with me too. So that was cool because that's when the jump happened, is when they were like, wait a minute, this is actually really fun. And then they invited people in. The other thing that I love about this, and I love that we have prompts for it, is I think there's a special bond that these people get to have with each other because they're getting to share the really special, important things about their life with each other.
Yes.
And so even if they're strangers
Yeah.
starting out, they get very close when you start saying, one of the prompts was, tell us about a special person in your life, or tell us about someone you're grateful for. That thread blew up quick because people love to talk about their people, right? And like, we saw husbands, we saw best friends, we saw kids, we saw
Family.
dogs, we saw families. Like, people love expressing gratitude for the things that are really special for them. We took that concept and we're spreading it out across all the different areas of life. And like today, for instance, the prompt was, tell us about your favorite song or a song that you're grateful for. And oh my gosh, people get so jazzed up about it because when that song is special to you and when it's gotten you through some really tough times, or it's your go-to when you want to get hyped and jazzed about life, that is really special to get to share with someone else. And so you don't even have to know each other in order to feel that energy or jump in and be like, oh my gosh, I love that song too. And so there's even one that I commented back on today that Rachel was like, oh my gosh, I don't know anyone who, like, I rarely meet anyone who knows that artist. And I was like, yeah, man, I totally jam out to it in my car and I sing it at the top of my lungs. That connection is so, so cool. And the only thing that we're connecting over is things that we're grateful for.
Yeah.
And so it can be super powerful. And it goes back to who you surround yourself with, right?
Yes.
So when you talk about who you're surrounding yourself with in your community of people, you want to surround yourself with people who have that grateful disposition in life, where it's not, constantly what's going wrong or what they're annoyed with or who they're annoyed with or all of that toxic brain dump.
It drains you.
It's draining, but it also, where is it taking you?
Nowhere.
It's not, all it's
Nowhere
doing
fast.
is it's I get it. That was a song.
I was going to say
Tracy
it.
Chapman.
No.
Yeah. Oh no?
Well.
Oh, that's Fast
Nowhere
Car.
Fast. Old Dominion.
Oh.
But Tracy Chapman was also going nowhere fast if you listen to the lyrics.
Yeah.
But she tried. Is it a he or a she?
No, it's a he.
No, it's a she.
What? Really?
Yep.
So when you talk about who you're surrounding yourself with, it's really, really important that you surround yourself with people who are going to help you level up. And whether that's being grateful, whether that's chasing dreams, whether that's assuming positive intent, whether that's being a good listener. When you're around people who suck at listening, you constantly feel like you're A, having to repeat yourself, B, that no one actually cares, and C, you tend to get annoyed and your energy is drained. And so that's really difficult to be around a group of people like that who are terrible at listening or constantly like in the middle of your sentence are like, look what I found. And you're like, oh my God, were you even listening to me?
I think I even asked you that one time. Like, there was a period where I felt like we had hung out with like a couple of groups of friends. And when we got home, I asked you, I went, am I bad at telling stories? And you were like, what? And I was like, I feel like the past couple of days I've been in the middle of telling a story that they asked me to tell.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I just started sharing. They asked me, they prompted me. And then halfway through, they were looking at their phone or distracted or would cut me off or start talking to someone else. And we have to realize they aren't bad people either. Like, sometimes you're human and sometimes that happens.
I thought you were going to say sometimes they are.
No, I mean, but the intention is like, you're not always going to get it right. Sometimes you are going to be distracted, but when you are, like, call it out on yourself and be like, I just got really distracted and I'm really sorry, but can we start over? And I do that with you because I would rather be real with you and say I wasn't paying attention and then refocus my brain than go, okay, yep, sure. And fumble my way through it.
You know who I think of when I think about this topic is my grandma.
Oh, grandma.
Gosh, she's such a precious soul. I just,
she gets
I want to
so
hug her forever.
excited when she asks you a question and she actually listens.
But the thing that sticks out to me is when she talks to us, it seems like she's trying to tell us everything that's in her brain for the past 3.5 months all at once. And she'll stop herself and say, gosh, it's just so nice. You actually listen to me.
Yeah.
And like, it makes my heart hurt a little bit because I'm like, I want you to be listened to more regularly.
Right.
We don't live close to each other, so we don't get to see each other that often. But the idea that it's so special to her and she takes note that someone's actually listening and we don't have our phones, we're not looking at our phones, we're not doing something else, we're not watching TV, we're not doing anything else, but we're just looking at her and listening to her and interacting and giving the social cues and nodding and all of that. And she just so appreciates it. And you forget that, you know, there's some people who don't have anyone that genuinely listens to them. And so that act alone is a big deal. And so to be present with someone and actually engage with them in a way that our souls crave that connection. This just got off on a totally different tangent. I know it was supposed to be about gratitude, but
it still is though, because
very
you
important.
know that when we listen to her, she's grateful. And I was just thinking of an experience when I was in a seminar recently and we were paired up and we had to practice active listening. And I've been told I'm good at that naturally.
You are.
But I do have to work at it. Like, it probably looks easy on the outside, but there are times when I feel distracted and I have to work at it. And I remember after we finished this exercise or practice, my partner looked at me and he said, I have never been listened to. You are the first person in my entire life that has actually made me feel like you were listening.
Wow.
Yeah, I get goosebumps because I'm like, that's not a luxury. That's something everyone should have. Yes,
Yeah.
everyone should have that. So back to the gratefulness. I agree with what you said 100%. You are your energy that you surround yourself with. So why not surround yourself with people that want to take you to the next level and live a lifestyle of gratitude versus, and we talked about this in the past episode, kind of shifting the blame and just, it's always someone else's fault and nothing's good and I'm always stressed and I'm always busy. And I can talk that talk because I lived it. And I was such a negative person. And when I go back to this list of emotional health, better sleep, confidence, relationships, and empathy, I had none of those going for me when I was not living a life of gratitude. And so that just goes to show how important it is.
Well, and if you think about, we've all had experiences with both types of people we just talked about. Which one do you feel better coming away from?
Right.
Which one do you come away saying, man, they make me want to live a better life? Right? Like, you don't get that from people who are being negative and who are extremely ungrateful, really. And even when there are things that they could be grateful about, they're like, ugh, but it wasn't this.
Right.
And so it just, that energy, the energy you put out really, really matters. And who you surround yourself really matters as well.
Absolutely. Before we close, we want to give a huge thank you to all of the people that were willing to put themselves out there and jump into the gratitude challenge. We know that feels kind of scary at first, and it's hard to be vulnerable in front of people you don't know, but you guys are killing it. Like, we literally review them. It's the best part of my day when I get home after work. I love seeing what everyone said and just how you all have brought it to the table. And then you brought your people to the table with you. So we just wanted to give a big shout out to all of you that participated.
Bam, bam. That was the celebration horns.
That was very good.
Thanks. As always, we hope that you take what's helpful, leave the rest, and leave us a comment over on lifewithbethandcourt.com under the show notes for this episode. You can also reach out to us on social media on Instagram and Facebook at Life with Beth and Court. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. We always have a blast chatting with you guys. And until next time, my friends, keep building your best life.
Bye, guys.